Welcome to the Angelscapes podcast, where you're encouraged to uncover and develop a direct connection with your soul's power, wisdom, and spiritual intuition that is ready to blossom. We'll explore new ideas, compelling tips, and real steps to help you learn simple spiritual practices. We're a safe place to learn more about accessing your soul's power with education and spiritual wholeness that could bring more clarity to your life. Now here's your host, a practicing medium, Akashic Records practitioner, spirit artist, coach, and mentor, Dr. Reverend Nancy Smith.
Do you give yourself a good fright this Halloween? Just stand in the corner and say boo? Or maybe you stayed up all night watching scary movies. Maybe Hocus Pocus 2 was all over your TV screen for a couple of nights. What do you know about the origins of Halloween? And how old is this tradition? And is the witchcraft that you're seeing on the television really reflective of what it actually is from the olden days? Hello, this is Angelscapes, and I'm your host, Nancy Smith, and I am with Kacey O'Donnell, a Wiccan practitioner and teacher of the Wiccan tradition. Tonight we're going to talk about and learn the truth about the Wiccan holiday of Samhain. Kacey is going to compare it to the modern day Halloween celebrations, and we're going to talk about how close are these traditions. Kacey has been traveling her Wiccan path for over 25 years. She is an eclectic solitary practitioner and a priestess of the craft. She has been teaching basic Wicca for a number of years and holding regular Sabbath celebrations since 2011. She also infuses her practices with holistic healing and energy work, including Reiki, access consciousness, and mental energy integration. We'd love to talk to you a little bit more about that. Kacey believes in the holistic healing and Wicca go hand in hand as they both teach how to move energy for the greater good. And we're going to just check in with Kacey a little bit later about where you can find her and the different things she does. And right now, I want to welcome you to the show, Kacey. So good to see you.
Thanks
you
so
were
much.
on 2020. You were on a couple of years ago. It's really good to see you.
You too.
A lot has happened in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Has it not? Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
very much so.
So did you celebrate Halloween this year? What did you do?
I did. So I always do a little, ritual for myself, and of course taking my 2-year-old son out for his trick-or-treating, which is always fun. He dressed up as Max the Wild Thing King from Where the Wild Things Are. It was adorable. So for me, celebrating it is mostly just honoring my ancestors and honoring the spirits that are around me and loved ones that are on the other side, and just being appreciative of their presence in my life and their influence on who I am as a person today.
Is it true that I've heard this many times, and I have my own opinions, but that the veil is thinner around Halloween? Is this actually true? And can you talk about what that's all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So the veil thinning is, it's a concept that's very, very ancient, where there is a couple of times a year that the veil thins so that it's easier to communicate between worlds. So if you're of the belief system that there is multiple worlds, for the Wiccan tradition, we have the other world, which is where spirits reside, and we have the fairy world, which is where magical creatures and things like that reside, and then we have our earthly plane. So when the veil thins, it's easier to communicate with those other worlds. So around this time of year, you can feel that energy in the air. You can feel like there's this other presence that's around you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of the reason why people love the spooky, scary stuff around the holiday, because you've got that mysticism, that unknown that's out there that kind of comes a little bit closer during this time of year. So
cool. Yeah. What was it like taking your 2-year-old out for trick-or-treating and Halloween? And I know it was a blast, but so tell me about that. But I'll also tie it in a little bit to the traditions. How would you see that fitting in?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's super fun to watch him grow up with it too, because I am raising him in the tradition as well. So honoring, the traditions that we have while still giving him the ability to celebrate like a regular kid. So yeah, and he's just started walking a couple of months ago, so it's like super
Mhm.
fun to watch him kind of toddle around, um, and so it's really fun. And so I still like to celebrate with him the modern day version of Halloween, because it is such a night of revelry for children. And we'll talk a little bit about this later, but the concept of like costumes and going from house to house is steeped in ancient traditions.
Oh,
And so
really?
yeah, and kind of tying that all in, and really using that as a way to teach him about what this holiday began as, and what traditions kind of translated to.
Well, so in the years and years, ancient days, they dressed up and went from house to house asking for treats. What did they do? Where does this come from?
So there's a few different versions of what that came from. So in the ancient Celtic tradition, it was said that when spirits around this time of year, spirits of your loved ones that have passed on could come back to the earthly plane. They could walk the earthly plane again, and you would always have treats left outside of your door for the spirit, so that when they come to your house, there's no malicious intent, because you've honored them with this offering of food or trinkets or what have
You
you.
sweeten them up.
um,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's nice to honor your departed ones. And so that's kind of one of the traditions that the trick-or-treating aspect came from. The costumes comes from a tradition where children were more vulnerable to being
Mhm.
taken by spirits. And so in order to
Wow.
trick the spirits into not seeing them as children, but seeing them as otherworldly creatures, they would dress them in these fantastical costumes, so that
Wow.
the spirits would pass them by and not take them into their other world. So there are a couple of different traditions that kind of translate into what modern day Halloween with trick-or-treating is all about.
So
So
close. I wasn't expecting you to describe something that's so close to what we do with our.
yeah,
That's very cool.
yeah,
Very
it's a
nice. It's
lot of fun.
also the end of the year, isn't it? It's the end of the Wiccan
Yes.
year, or the
Yep, it's the end of the Wiccan year. We come to the close of the wheel of the year with this holiday. So from here forward, we start our new tradition, our new year, our new cycle. So that's kind of that culminating transition period is the Samhain period.
Okay, so it's like the last day of the year. Do you have a beginning of the year celebration at some point at another time of the year?
Yeah. So with Halloween, it's kind of a closing. It's a transition period, and
Mhm.
from there, it's a time to go inward, a time of
Okay.
introspection and inward thought, inward movement. And then when we get to Yule, then the tradition of the sun being reborn, that's when the year begins again, with the birth of the sun god,
Oh.
and with that whole transition. So
And the Yule is like December 21st or something.
yeah, yep,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
winter equinox.
You
So
could. Oh. So you get a nice little pause. I like that. I never
yeah,
liked New Year's Eve and New Year's. It's like there's no pause. I like
right.
we're just going to go inward. We're going to sort out what we did for the year, or
Yes. Yeah, it's a great time to do a lot of reflecting. Like when you celebrate, traditional New Year's, you take that time to think of resolutions and, reflect on what's happened in the past and what you want to bring forward. And so this is a little bit more time and space to do so, with this roughly, 5 to 6 weeks between Halloween, Samhain, Yule. So it gives you that space to reflect and really think about what you want to let go of and what you want to bring forward with you into the new cycle.
that is lovely. That is sweet. Well, what is a tradition, or maybe a ritual that you have done over the years that works for you in terms of ending the year and celebrating the spirits coming by?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I like to do on Samhain, or in the Samhain time, is write down a list of things that have come to fruition over the past year. things that I'm thankful for, and also things that maybe I wanted to happen but didn't, plans that didn't come to fruition, things that didn't get finished, that kind of stuff. And I'll have two different lists going, and I'll, say a prayer or spell over the list of things that I've accomplished. And then for the list of things that I haven't accomplished or haven't been completed, I use basically a prayer and kind of burn that. And then that goes, back into the universe as, releasing that energy. So you're not holding on to that energy of incompletion. You're going into the
Okay.
next cycle.
So you
So
you let the incompletion go.
Yep.
Because I always add it to the list for next year. So maybe I shouldn't be adding it. I should just say, okay, let it go. And then
Well,
if I want to renew it, then I renew it.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's what this introspection time is great for, is to reflect.
If I want to renew it, then I
something
renew it.
that you really want to bring forward with you. Is this something that is important enough for you to continue working on? And our journeys are never done. There's always room for growth. There's always room for more space to go deeper, to go reach further. And it's that time and space to allow yourself to really reflect and see what you want to bring forward and what you want to move.
Okay. So we want to have to honor all the things that have happened and not, like I do, just kind of skim by and pretend it was fun, but we want to honor the completion of something. I love that. I love that idea of it. And then, so where are you in your routine or your ritual? Are you still making the list, or you completed it, or you?
I'm still making the list this year. There was a lot I had to be grateful for. So there was a lot of stuff that happened, which was great. And it's really a great practice to honor the stuff that you've completed, because oftentimes when we're in our busy day-to-day lives, we're just checking off boxes or crossing off to-do lists, and you don't honor the things that you've achieved, that you've accomplished over the course of whatever you're planning. So it's a great time to really sit in your accomplishments and really appreciate your work that you've done to get these things done. And I'm kind of a geek with planners too, so I do this monthly as well. I'll write what my goals are for the month, and then what my successes are at the end of the month. So this is kind of like a culmination of the whole year. So
Do you do it around the moon? The moon? Are you kind of like doing the list around the moon, or is it more on the calendar?
It's more on the calendar for that,
Okay.
just because that's my
That's your go-to.
left brain. Yeah, it's my left brain.
Yeah, I guess you're the left, right? Yeah.
But yeah, so it's all about honoring yourself and learning to see your accomplishments for what they are, instead of just a box you check off. So, because it's amazing what we can accomplish and what we don't realize we've accomplished. It's so wonderful. Like, for example, this year I completed my first class of my level 2, and that was a huge undertaking, like hours and hours of work. So, and it went wonderfally. And
So tell me about this class of hours and hours of work. It's class 2. What's class 1? Tell me a little. Let's bring everyone up to speed here.
Reel it back. Yeah. So the School of Wicca that I teach, we have 2 levels. So the first level is School of Wicca Beginnings. So this is where you learn about all the foundationary pieces, like what is Wicca, what do you do, what does it mean, how do you do it. So it's how to use the things that you see in your space to create magic in your life. So how do we use crystals to help with magic work? How do we use candles? How do we use colors? How do you connect with different gods and goddesses? So this beginnings level kind of covers all those bases. We talk about a wide variety of topics, and we have like guest speakers, and it's a really fun way to kind of build that foundation. So like when you're building a house, you have to build a foundation first. So you can't put walls up unless you have a frame. So it's that functional frame that you're building with this class. You kind of get to see like, oh, do I like doing this? Do I like doing that? Maybe I wasn't so crazy about that. So, because we've got some people that, love the herbalism stuff, but maybe aren't too keen on like gods and goddesses. They would prefer to work with the earth and that kind. And that's great. you learn about that stuff when you're going through this class. And we base each class around one of the holidays as well, around one of the Sabbats. So you get to learn a really in-depth version of these Sabbats and what they are and how to celebrate, and different meanings and themes and traditions of these holidays. So each class is based around one of those. So it runs for 8 months, and like one Sunday a month. And it's a really fun time. I have met some wonderful people that have
Nice.
just, it's such a great time. Like every class is just so amazing. And, it's different every time because there's different personalities, and, you've got this great community of people that you're building around. And it's people that you can connect with going forward, and like from the class, like my level 2 that I will talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
All of those people had been in the beginnings class in different years. So, because we've been running it for 4 years now. So level 2 had someone from every single year that we've run so far. And to see them come together and build this like wonderful community of each other, it was just, it was magical.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is
Yeah.
so it's really, so you're building a community. I remember we talked 2 years ago. You said you were a solitary practitioner. So oftentimes Wiccan will have things called covens or groups of people where you have the high hierarchy happening. And you said, no, I'm more independent. I'm in your teaching, the individual practitioner. Talk to me about that, and how is this level 1, level 2 impacting that individual sense?
Yeah, I mean, I am a solitary practitioner by nature. I have been for many, many years. But I love celebrating with a community. Like there's nothing like feeling that group energy and, feeling that focused intention that everyone's got the same goal, and that it just builds the energy so much faster, and like it's so much more intention behind it. And it's just a wonderful way to kind of really celebrate whatever you're coming together to celebrate. So we've run the Sabbats for many, many years. And so having those celebrations kind of turn into these classes. So these wonderful students that have, come to each of the classes, and, from level 1 to now level 2, it was such a humbling experience for me too, to see like, this is people that want to take this work forward. These are people that want to live this life. And it's a beautiful thing to see. And I will say that my level 2 students that just graduated in the summer have already asked me when we're starting the coven. So.
Oh, they have. What do you suppose? What do you suppose your answer is going to be? Are you thinking about it, or?
It's not right now.
Is there a level 3 in the mix?
I'll have to get my son into, kindergarten first. So
okay. Okay. Yeah, I hear you. Oh, that's amazing. So really amazing work. What I admire in that is that, and what I love about Wiccan is it is a tradition, but it's also a recognized religion now in the United States, which is so touches my heart. It's so very cool. And here you are nurturing it and bringing it along and really teaching, and the practices and the rituals are continuing, which is honoring the earth, honoring humanity and the connection to earth. And there's a whole new language in there that I should take your classes, but there's a whole new language in there that you're speaking to your people with. So what is your most exciting part about what you're doing?
Oh God, there's so many parts. I think the most exciting thing is seeing the students develop into these new versions of themselves, and seeing what their magical journey can become. It's like watching a flower blossom. It's so magical for me to watch these people just grow and bloom and become these wonderful versions of themselves. And for me, it changes every time. So, every person is so individualized, which I think is why I chose to be solitary for so long, is because it is so personal. Each of these journeys are so personal. We take we take this religion and we take this practice and belief system and we really internalize it, because there are no churches, there are no Bibles, there are no, doctrines that we can go to. It's a very personalized religion. It's a very, very intimate thing. But it's given me this kind of whole new look on it, looking from my students' eyes and them, rediscovering this, and for me, rediscovering everything. Like every time I teach the classes, I learned new stuff every time. And
that's what
yeah,
teaching does for you.
it's
if you want to know it better, teach it.
exactly.
Deeper. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So it's so much fun though. It's so much fun. And I often like to have my students input. So like I want to know, like, what do you want to know about? What's the next thing that you're curious about? And so with the level 2, it's the practitioner's level. So you take all of that knowledge you built in the beginnings course and like that foundational knowledge, and you actually turn it into a practice. So you're taking this forward and you're actually actively using this in your life. So you are practicing the Sabbats on your own. You're honoring, the earth. You're honoring yourself and, your connection with everyone around you. And, it's more advanced techniques too. So we're learning about like warding and self-defense. We learn a little bit about astral projection. We're learning about, how to discover your magical name, how to work more in depth with the goddess and the god, and really go a little bit deeper with what you want to do. And it's a really fun class. Like I said, I spent hours and hours building the class, which was so fun for me. I mean, I love research. It's one of my nerdy things. I love research. So
and you're so thorough with it. I know. I'm trying to read all the titles of the books. They're all real, people. This is
they're not all real.
It's not set up. It's not staging. It's real. So
yeah. So it's just so much fun, and it's wonderful to see what they want to get out of this. So where they want to take their next step, where they want to take their next journey. So it's just so much fun.
Wow. Well, this is, I don't know if people read books anymore, but did you ever think of organizing it into some kind of a book or a manual or a wonderful guide? So,
I've thought about it. Like I said, my son has to get into,
kindergarten. Okay. Understood. He's a handful. He's a cutie. Let's talk about your Facebook page. What's it called if people want to find you?
So you can find me at Choosing Sunshine.
Choosing Sunshine. And that's your Facebook page, Choosing Sunshine. It's also your web page, isn't it? choosingsunshine.com. Wonderful. I really recommend, I'm just taking a little time to say, I recommend looking Kasey up. You can look her up choosingsunshine.com or finding her on Facebook page, Choosing Sunshine. Make friends with her. And Woman of Wisdom Inc. is where you teach the classes.
Yes.
So you could reach out to Kasey. She'll guide you to where the classes are and how to sign up for them, or you can go to Women of Wisdom, Women, plural, of Wisdom Inc. and look for her under the Schools of Wisdom, and she'll be there. I like to bring people who have amazing tools and gifts and another way of looking at life onto the Angelscapes podcast, so that people could just know how many tools are around and how many people are doing this kind of work and how rich their lives have become. So you're definitely an inspiration. I don't know why it took me 2 years to have you back on. So it's just because you're definitely an inspiration around. I'm just kind of taking a look at a little bit on Facebook to see who's watching, and Maria LeBlanc is giving a shout out. Lisa Wallace, Jess Murph. I don't know if you know anything. Terry Toner. Just thank you for watching and learning from Kasey. And so good to see everyone come on. So what else? We go back to Halloween. What have we not talked about the Halloween tradition?
Well, I think with Halloween, it's good to honor where it's come from. So like the traditions that I was talking about in the beginning about, like, where trick-or-treating came from and where the costumes came from. And, it's very, other other religions have these kind of celebrations around this time of year, like in Mexican culture, Dia de los Muertos, they have the Day of the Dead, so this time of year, it's that energy that's around this time of year. Like I said, with the veil thinning, you can feel it in the air. You can feel that otherworldliness. And so really embracing that energy and taking that forward with you. And like I said, honoring yourself and going forward and letting go. That's a big theme with Halloween and with Samhain. One of the things that my students are always shocked to find out. So Samhain is the last of the harvest holidays. This is generally when we harvest our gourds, like pumpkins and squash and things like that. And it's said in tradition, if you harvest anything after Halloween, it is said to be cursed because it should be left for the spirits.
Oh,
it is harvested after Halloween.
After Halloween, you shouldn't just leave it in the ground. Go back to the earth. Go back to the spirits.
Exactly.
Interesting. I'll have to remember that when I someday make my big garden. But that is really interesting. Now, what would you do if you had a garden full of, oops, I forgot all those zucchinis, or oops, I forgot, you just till them back into the earth, let them go back in?
Yeah. And I mean, it can also, you can leave them for like animals.
Animals will take them.
Because, I truly believe animals are spirit guides as well. So you're honoring their energy as well. So leaving that food out there, it's going to be consumed in one way or another.
It's a gift of the earth, back to the earth, back to the.
Exactly.
I wanted to ask you, Hocus Pocus 2 came out. It was right around Halloween. It was a huge, huge thing. And it's cute, it's funny, and yet there are some serious implications in terms of Wiccan traditions.
Yeah.
And do you have any 2 cents to throw in there about, I mean, I don't want to, it was a fun movie. And sometimes I would see something and go, what's that? What are your thoughts?
I love the movie. It's, I'm a Hocus Pocus girl whole life. So I love the movie, but it also points a bad light on, what witchcraft, what this energy really is, because not all people who practice magic are bad. In fact, anyone who's Wiccan is not a bad practitioner, because we can't. It's in our read. Like, you don't put out what you don't want to get back. So by putting out, negative energy, dark energy, all of that, you're going to get that back. And that's just not the energy you want to put out into the universe. So,
and that's not all what Wiccan or witches are. I was hilarious and I was laughing, and these gals were something else, but I was, okay, I'm just going to say it. They eat children to keep them young. Really bothered me. No kid has to worry about these women.
I know.
Where does that come from? Why would somebody say that? It's because it's a scary thing to say, or is there something there that?
I mean, in ancient traditions, certain sects of pagan beliefs did believe in sacrifice. This is a time of year where spirits leave the earth. What the spirits that have passed on leave the earth, they go to the other world around this time of year when the veil is thin. And so that's also that letting go energy. So they're moving on. And so the sacrifices would happen around this time of year as well, to kind of guide the way. Certain traditions, not a tradition I believe it. Like, I practice myself, obviously.
It is long gone. It's
yes, very, very much so. There are no sacrificial rites as far as I'm aware nowadays. But that it was a ploy. It was a rumor that was started to turn people against magical practitioners. So that fear that, these innocent beings are being, ruined and being, killed by this magical essence, was a way of, it's a scare tactic that, people used to convert and to
Bad press.
yeah,
Gossip.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
So I don't know
yeah.
exactly where that rumor started, but it is not true. We do not eat babies.
Nor do
I'm
you hurt people. Like again, that read that it's like do no harm. It's what is there's one read. What does it say in particular? Um,
and harming none, do what you will.
Harming none, do what you will. Yeah, yeah. Um, what do I want to say? So Halloween is getting really big in the European countries. It's hilarious. It's like my friend in Britain was talking about how they're trick-or-treating. They're just starting to get trick-or-treating. And then another a friend of a friend was from Germany, and he stopped for a minute. He says, wait a minute. Didn't you guys used to hang witches and now you're celebrating it? Is that weird or what? And but we saw it in Korea and Seoul, in Germany loves Halloween. It's becoming just as fun as it is here. And I think it's really interesting too, because that was the European countries were just horrible for wiping out the Wiccan tradition. And here they are beginning to celebrate it. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I truly believe everything comes around again. So you see it in fashion styles, you see it in, trends. It's one of those things where we're getting to a consciousness in this day and age where people want to reconnect with the earth. They want to build that connection back to nature. They want to, connect with other people on a deeper level. And so this is a practice, this is a belief system that does that. And that's one of the reasons I started with it, because I wanted that deeper connection. I wanted, to be connected to my, divine higher self. And I didn't find that within the Catholic faith that I was raised in. So when I found Wicca, it just kind of clicked. It made sense. And I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I should be practicing, because it makes sense. So
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love what you're saying. It brought me back to thinking I also was raised Catholic, but we had grew up in Detroit, and Devil's Night was huge. Bigger than trick-or-treating time. And actually buildings would get burned down, cars would be torched. So it was really Devil's Night, and it was just an excuse to be wild and rebellious, and the devil get into you and you were doing it. And I was down in Salem just a couple of weeks ago. It was a 45-minute wait just to get to at a store, not a restaurant, not anything, just a store. It was amazing. And then there were a lot of booths outside too. It was so much fun. And they said that there were more people in Salem than ever. So that's kind of cool. What I noticed too is, it's kind of the Day of the Dead thing kind of going on. The looking at the death, looking at the scary part of death, looking at the funny. I saw a skeleton of a mermaid, it was hilarious. I loved it. I want to get it. I got a brand new set of tarot cards. But anyway, looking at these traditions in Salem, and the vendors out there were practitioners. It's very clear that they are practitioners, and they were having a hoot of a time and having so. Does Wiccan give you another broader way of looking at death and renewal and stuff like that? Because Catholicism was a little different than what we're seeing now, and I see a lot of fun around that.
yeah,
Talk to me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Most Wiccan traditions do believe in an afterlife or reincarnation. So there is that belief that your soul goes on. Your soul either regenerates as something new on this earth plane, or goes back to what we know as the Summerland, where your soul goes to rest.
Summerland. That's what spiritualists call heaven as well. Summerland. Yeah.
Yeah. So and it's such a great mentality to have, because it gives you connection. And I know I keep coming back to that, but that is what this belief system is all about. It's that connection, that transition, that something goes, but something also comes in. So there's death, but there's birth, but there's always perpetual cycles. So it's about really kind of embracing that. And that belief that we do go on, that we do, reincarnate, we do, our souls can rest, our souls can go somewhere that, is comforting. And we don't believe in a hell. It's just not it's not a belief within the Wiccan tradition.
Yeah.
So it's more about kind of reflecting and bringing what you've learned here forward. So when I reincarnate next time, I'll take the lessons that I've learned in this lifetime and bring them forward. And, if there's lessons that I haven't gotten, I'll either relearn them or, it'll come up as something new. But yeah, we do believe in that soul going forward. So
It's a beautiful soul progression. I'm sorry, what?
We try to celebrate it. So
yeah, celebrate it instead of, but it's fun to make a good scare out of it as well. But
yes.
But it's a beautiful tradition of celebrating the death, because you're celebrating life, because there's a progression of the soul, of the spirit, more than it is and that's the same thing in spiritualism. We're spiritual beings in a human container, kind of thing, and Wiccan embraces that as well.
Yeah,
I like that. It's very comforting. It's funny because there's so many similarities between Wicca and spiritualism, and I'll be talking in a few more shows about spiritualism, and yet sometimes they don't. I'm sure Wicca will recognize spiritualists, but I don't know that all spiritualists recognize Wicca, and I find that hilarious, to be honest with you. But I'm saying that publicly now, being a reverend of the spiritualist tradition. But there is so much in the earth faith religion, and it is so old, and to have it kind of rebloom and revitalize over the past decades is very, very exciting, very, very cool.
It really is. And, just seeing it come up with, the new generations and seeing where they're going with it. And, I ran a teen witch class in the springtime. A few of my friends wanted their children to learn a little bit about this because they had questions, and they were going to TikTok for answers. Yeah, don't go to TikTok to learn about magic. Just don't do it. So I ran a teen witch class for them and talked a little bit about like where the traditions are, what we believe in, especially like that threefold law, like what you put out, what you put out comes back to you
3 times the size of when you put it out there.
Exactly. So, really instilling in them these beliefs that will help them to shape how they view this. So give them that foundation. And, it was a one-night class, so there's only so much you can do in a couple of hours, but, really kind of trying to make it sink in that this is something that's bigger than just a video you saw on TikTok. This is something that's bigger than, what you see in the movies.
Kasey, I challenge you to make some TikToks. Get out there, make some of those. Say this is how you really do it. So just jumping ahead to, I don't. This kind of is a close topic, but maybe a little bit off. Tarot and reading people's future. Where did tarot come from? I feel like there's a background that's connected a little bit to Wiccan tradition. Is that true?
There are some sects of Wicca that do use divination tools. So there is one sect, they're called the Strega. So they use much more divination tools in their practice, and I'm pretty sure that tarot was derived from their practices.
Okay.
So I don't do tarot a lot myself. I just it's just not one of the things that I do. But a lot of practitioners, they do use tarot. They do use other divination tools, and really it's just another way of communicating with your guides, your loved ones, communicating with your people on the other side, and about just, again, that connection piece. So having those answers right in front of you is it's important for some people. It's that connection.
So what are your top 5 tools of connecting to connecting wherever you want to connect to?
I would say the biggest one is meditation.
Okay.
I think that meditation is something that can transcend every religion. It's
True.
something that every person on this earth should be doing, because to be able to sit quietly with yourself, with your thoughts, with your own soul, that is the most vulnerable space that you
Mhm.
can be in. And that's where you find the most truth. That's where you find your heart center. That's where you find like where your soul sits. And from there, you're open to receiving more messages, more energy, just more.
Just more.
Yeah, just more. So meditation is definitely where I tend to do most of my communication, most of my connecting, and a lot with healing practices too. Being in that meditative state can help facilitate
Mhm.
healing energy and being a conduit, and really just being a clear channel. And meditation helps you do that because it helps to clear your mind. It helps you to kind of view your thoughts in a different way. So instead of being your thought, it's seeing your thought. So
Oh,
so yeah. So meditation is probably the biggest tool that I use on a regular basis. And you don't need any stuff to do it. You can just sit in your chair at your office and, just meditate for 5 minutes, and that works.
nice.
But one of my other favorite tools to use are candles. I'm such a candle junkie. I have so many candles, more than I will probably ever use in my lifetime. But I adore candles. It's kind of the most basic form of magic, in my opinion, making, that fire start, and just seeing like how the fire in the air, and it transforms like this ball of wax. So it's just the great amalgamation of all these elements that come together in this one simple thing.
Um, we had somebody on a few weeks ago who's a candle maker, and
Mm.
excuse me, the biggest talk about the candles was setting your intention and how the candle grounded and put up to flame your intention. Does that sound about right for you?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We use candles in most spell work that
Okay.
practitioners will do, because it's easy, and it's a way that's instantaneous, um, that instantaneous kind of like sending of energy. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I don't know many witches that don't use candles. Uh,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
but yeah, so, and it's a simple tool. It's relatively inexpensive. You can, if you're, really hurting for it, you can use birthday candles. Like it's that simple. Like there's so many different ways to use candles. Um, yeah, and then I'd say my next one is probably, and I know you'll relate to this because you go to Women of Wisdom too, the crystals. The crystals.
Absolutely. More
They're
like a
just wonderful.
magpie for crystals. I have crystals. I don't even
Yes.
know what they are, but they're like, oh, yes.
Yep. Yep. And they call to you, and they have their own little, energy in them. And it's just crystals are such a great way to also program spells and to keep them going forward with you. So a
Okay.
lot of times, if I have something that I'm looking to like build on over the next like week or month or whatever, I'll program a
Okay.
candle. I'll program a crystal with that intention, and then carry that around with me, because
I
the
love that
energy from
idea.
yeah, so the
Yeah.
energy from the
Wow.
crystal is constantly in your energy field.
Wow.
And you don't have to keep renewing the spell. You don't have to keep renewing that intention, because it's all right there. So,
Love
and
that.
that's an easy way to kind of carry, if you're an on the go kind of witch, which I usually am. It's something
Especially
that's
with a child, especially with a 2-year-old.
yes. Oh, and he loves
Now,
the crystal
yeah.
too.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
yeah. The crystal grids, I use them a lot. Is this
Mhm.
in your spell work? But so without crystals, so all kinds. Semi-precious stones, just tumbled, raw, whatever. Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Anything that calls to you.
Okay. Love it. Love it. Great. Okay. So that's meditation, candles, crystals. What else?
The moon.
Moon.
You'll never meet a witch that's not in love with the moon. It's magical. The way that it relates to women's bodies, and that connection of cycle, and that connection of, the maternal and the mystical, and that the darkness, I don't mean darkness as in like a negative thing, but darkness as in like a comfort thing.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
kind of like that gestation period before birth, like that encompassing, like, comfortable darkness that you can sit in and you can just be who you
Mhm.
are. And that
Wonderful.
the
Yeah.
connection to the moon is just one of those things that never gets old. Like, I talk to the moon on a regular basis. From driving in my car and I see
Wow.
it going over the horizon, I'll just kind of have a conversation. And
Wow.
yeah, it's
I never thought of talking to the moon. I just go gaze at it, go, it's beautiful. I want to talk to the moon. I'm going to get right out there with my chair and sit down and go, how you doing? It's like, this sounds
yes,
great.
yep, exactly. Yeah, so, and the moon is so important with a lot of magical practice, because it can help to amplify any kind of spell work that you're doing. So relating to the different phases of the moon, and like how you use them with like your magic work and with your intentions. So for example, if you want to start a new project, you don't want to start it on a waning moon, because that's the time of release, that's the time of letting go. So you want to start it on a new moon, or on the waxing moon. So because
Okay.
that's a time of gaining, that's a time of building. So new things should be started then. And then if
Okay.
you're looking for something that really needs a kind of like an extra oomph of power, you use the full moon. And that's just like the culmination of all that earth, that star energy, is just that full moon energy is
Brings
just,
it to you.
yeah, absolutely. And if you want to break a bad habit, that you would do on a waning moon, because that's all about releasing. It's all about letting go. It's all
Okay.
about, letting things fall off. And great time of the moon cycle to do any sort of weight loss, things like that. Any starting of those kind of
I
plans,
was
like
just thinking of weight loss. I was thinking, what's the next full moon and what is it in? And is that going to support? It's not weight loss. It's actually releasing habits of eating, but habits of what are you taking in? Because
Mhm.
I sometimes I can take in some really it's not even food. I'll just take in some difficult thoughts or
Mhm.
difficult attitudes, or I take in something that's not mine. I swear I'll put on 5 pounds,
Yeah.
but so, but anyway, so that's interesting. So pick the full moon to start your next releasement of whatever it is. Oh,
Yep.
I
Anything
like
from the
it.
full moon to the new moon, that's the time of waning. That's the time of releasing. So that's a great
Okay,
time to start any sort of removal of bad habits, any sort of things that you're trying to get rid of. That's a great time to
great.
start.
So the moon, the candles, the
Crystals,
meditation,
meditation.
crystals. What about spell work? Is that a tool that you use?
Um, yes and no.
Okay.
I come to spell work. It's something I used a lot when I was younger. When I was first starting the craft,
Mhm,
it's a way to easily shape your intention. It's
mhm.
a way to kind of focus your thoughts and focus your energy, and it's that time that you're putting into a specific purpose to do at that moment.
Mm.
And so it's really helpful when you're learning how to do magic, when you're learning how to practice magic, because it gives you that focus, it gives you that space to be able to sit and create. At this point, I do use them in like my Sabbath celebrations. We always do spell work within those celebrations. Um, but for me, it's all about intention, you know.
Attention more than
And so
anything.
I do a lot of journaling. So like writing things
Journaling probably
so
is that would be the next biggest tool that you use, journaling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, and that in and of itself, I mean, there's a reason that, writing is called spelling. So it's a spell. You're
Oh my
casting a spell when
goodness.
you write.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I love that. Yeah. Do you, when you write, is it from your heart, or do you sometimes have spirit or your guides come through and write through your pen, or how does?
it depends on what I'm trying to get. If I'm trying to get messages, I'll try to just like let my mind go and just write. And that way, like I can become a channel. Um, so I'm kind of like taking myself out of the driver's seat in that aspect. But if I'm just trying to like work through or like focus on something that I want to bring into my life,
Mhm.
I'll do the journaling with intention. So
Okay.
like the
Journaling.
thoughts that come into my head, I'll write them down and like really have an intention with writing it. Okay, so
Okay.
why am I writing this? What am I writing? How am I, you just kind of like analyzing what you're writing and what that intention is.
Okay.
So,
Okay. I did this, it wasn't really a spell, but I do, this is the second time I've done this. I had this image. I'm a graphic person. Everything's graphic. And I'm just going on the writing, but also the spell. You don't mind me telling me a story, but so I call it the Nancy sandwich. When I just don't like the meal that life is bringing me. So I draw a bun, sesame seeds, because they're my favorite. And then I'll draw the bottom of the bun. And then inside I write all of the things that's going on in my life that I just can't, it's not what I want. It's, or I'm struggling with it, or I don't understand it. So I did a nice big fat Nancy sandwich just last week. And I just prayed. I said, here are all the things that are in my life that I really, they're causing me grief. They're causing me confusion. They're bringing me to all kinds of crazy places. And I'm going to give it to you. I don't know what to do. So it was in my journal, closed my journal, put it away. And within 24 hours, one major thing happened to totally change it around. And then within 48 hours, another thing came in. And it was amazing. It's not a spell. It was just clearing the decks. So of the attention, I suppose, was just letting it go somehow. But creative journaling is a wonderful tool to use. But
absolutely.
Sorry, I had to tell that story.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a little bit of a witch, Nancy.
So we all are.
We all are.
The tools,
it's really just getting in touch with that.
The tools that you could use from the Wicca tradition they're beautiful. They're gorgeous. You named just, do we get to the 5? You named just 5, and there's just hundreds. There's herbal, there's watching nature and looking for signs in nature. There's, I watch the clouds, I look for how the animals are behaving, or just the way the leaf is falling on the ground. It's all of that. We're all connected. And that's why I gush about Wiccan tradition, because it teaches us that we all are connected like no other discipline does. So that's why I love talking to you about it.
I love talking to you about it too, Nancy.
So let's remind people where they can find you, and then we're gonna have to wrap it up, because I think you need to put somebody to bed.
Yeah, pretty soon. So you can find me. My website is choosingsunshine.com. I am on Facebook, Choosing Sunshine as well. I have my personal Instagram, Kacey O'Donnel, that is public. So if you ever want to be in touch that way, you'll see a lot of cute pictures of my son.
And they're adorable. I recommend them.
He is quite adorable. Or just reach out to me through Women of Wisdom. That's where I host all of my classes and my Sabbath celebrations. So happy to be in touch with whatever method works for you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. And we will be back next week with a surprise. I don't know what it is yet. No, I'm kidding. We'll be back next week. We're going to start really diving into spiritualism and what that is and what the principles are. Thank you, Kasey, for coming on board. I'm Nancy Smith of Angelscapes. You can find me on Facebook of Nancy Smith of Angelscapes. Angelscapes.net is my website. And reach out anytime. I am on Angelscapes on Instagram as well. It's easier than finding Nancy Smith. But I I want to just thank you for coming on, Kasey, and I give everyone who listened a great thank you, and I wish you all well.
Thank you.
Until the next episode, we'll just keep the faith and love the moon.
Thank you for joining the Angelscapes podcast. We hope you've gained new insights and inspiration for your journey to uncover and access your soul's power. For more information and a deeper dive into finding clarity in your life, go to angelscapes.net. Remember to subscribe so you can be part of the discussion. It may just change your life. See you next time.